So yes, my name is Aaron Patching. I am a DT teacher, have been for the past 8 years now. And I am also the co-founder of Inventor Club, where we look at innovation in education. And we also teach a lot about engineering and that iterative design cycle. I run the Control or Teach podcast as well with Matthew Weems. Big shout out to Matthew. And we talk about edtech. So that is what Canva is for me. It's a beautiful amalgamation of all those things, and that's why I genuinely love it so much. And I'm going to talk a lot today about the tips of how you can use that within the classroom, and then how you can start to bring some AI elements into it. Now, where you are at your AI journey and your comfortability, that's not a problem. These are just some tips today. So it's things you might want to start looking at yourself, and whether you bring that into the classroom with your students. I don't do a lot of AI in the classroom with my kids at the moment, but that's because we're building on their literacy. And then I'm going to talk a lot about resource websites and how you can start to use those as an addition to your practice as well. First of all, to start us off, this is going to help me hugely for the people who are watching. It is interactive. So if you are watching on a laptop and maybe you want to do this on your phone, you can scan the QR code. Or if you're the other way around and you are on a phone, then you can just type in that shortened URL and that will get you on there on a laptop as well. But this is going to give you access to these slides. And this is exactly what you can do with your students if you haven't already. If you don't have a Google Classroom, or you're not on Microsoft, or you want a way to get your slides and your presentations and information to students, this is an easy way of doing it. But if you can get yourselves on there, next slide over, you'll notice there is a couple of questions for you. And I would like to get to know you a little bit. I'd like to know about your setting, where you are, and where you are in your Canva journey and experience. So this here on the screen, what you're looking at is a poll. And this is a function and a feature within there. And I do use this just as quick little starter activities or DNAs. And on the flip side, exit tickets as well, which I'll show you. So when I click on this, it is interactive. So I'm a secondary teacher. I'm going to click on there. And because it's a poll, it's going to show me those votes. So I can see live, interactive, that the results as they go up. So I can see at the moment we've got 50% of secondary teachers here. So post 16 FE, so we've got a nice little spread across the board there, and those votes are coming in. So thank you very much to those people who are voting. And then I work a lot with resistant materials, so I'm going to click on that one for myself. And that's the beauty of a poll. When there is a difference between the polls and the quizzes, is that it's live and it will show you that percentage response and those votes right there live in front of you on the screen. So I'm just going to flick over to my last one here and see where you are. I've used Canva a lot because I love it. So that's going to be the one that I vote for, and I click to then show those different percentages. So I'm going to let them tick over in the background. I'm going to come back to them. But what that's doing is, as a teacher, that's giving me live feedback. So I can actually see the percentages as they are. So if I'm asking a question, I can see roughly, very, very quickly, what percentage of my class have been listening. Have they been able to pick up that correct answer? Are there any misconceptions that I might need to address and go back over? And that can be as a whole class. And then we can have a look at then quizzes. Now, this next slide here is, I've put that in because that's for you, to tell you not to go too far. But this is for students as well. So I like to put up these little funny slides so they know they've got instructions in those slides for them, telling them what to do and when to stop and when to then go forward again. So if you are following along at home, then you can skip ahead. So this is an example of how I would then use poll, maybe potentially with a question. I can pose an image. I can use that to then do for instance, a very quick little quiz at the start. So I can use this as a DNA to gauge their understanding or some prior learning from a previous lesson. And you can put that up as to whatever you like, or you could then put up something that's a multiple choice question. And this would be for all the textile teachers out there. Like I said, I'm more of a resistant man myself, but I want to cater for everyone today. I'm going to try and give some little nuggets. So this is very engaging. This is in your face, poses you a question the second you walk into that classroom that the students just cannot get away from it. And then if they know they need to go on, it's an incentive for them to log onto those computers quicker. For those of us who are used to maybe some of the children dawdling in and then they're taking a bit longer to log themselves on, actually they're posing and they know that they're going to get some praise for those questions, and we're going to have a look at what the correct answer is, because this here is slightly different. This is a quiz, and the reason and how I can tell that as a quiz is because it's got this submit button there. So the polls used to give me the percentage on there, but if I was to select the correct answer here, which I happen to know because I made it, is the option 1 for applique, I can then select and make my option, and then I can then submit my answer in. And then what that will do is that will then give me a breakdown afterwards. So I'm going to come out of presenting, because I'm going to show you how I can check and see those answers. So this is here. This is how you would put the presentation together. This is a live element as a poll. And if I select that at the top there, I can see the responses and see what's been coming in. So this is going to give me a breakdown of who has been selecting. So I can see instantly, again, very quick, don't need to download it, don't have to open and save a Excel spreadsheet or anything. I can see the person's name if they're logged in. If you're anonymous, don't worry, you just come up as anonymous. But with your students, it will give me their names, and then it'll tell me the option that they've chosen. I can then view those responses. I can go into a little bit more detail of when they did it, whether they got that correct or not, and then I can see how many people got it incorrect and total who's answered it, and I can use that in perpetuity because it's there on the slide. If I want to reset it, nice and simple, I can then have the options here for that particular poll, and then I can reset that, and I can even look at some analytics behind it as well. I'm then just going to jump back into present, because that's how you would check your responses for polls, for questions, for everything moving forwards. And it doesn't just have to be singular one by one. You can have up to 10 polls on one slide at a time. So you can pose multiple questions or polls or quizzes, and you can then use that again very quickly just to see where they're at on those questions. This could be an exit ticket, for instance, just as they're about to leave, that it's on their very last slide for them to complete before you get them to log off the computers or their Chromebooks, whatever it is you use. But you can then go back in and check all those answers. So how you use that is completely up to you, but it's just a low stakes way of collecting information from your students. And that's just instant, and it's in your slides. So that's a built-in feature that you can use. This is one I love, and I do with pretty much all my classes. I do my mood boards now exclusively on Canva. I don't bother with PowerPoint. I don't use anything else. They all know. And what it does is it's a secret little skill builder for me. So I was tired of mood boards looking like this. I'm sure this is going to look familiar for a lot of you, whether that was at Key Stage 3 or 4. I found it so hard for them to actually use them and to get some sense out of it, because otherwise it literally was just a collection of pictures that they put together. It wasn't really inspiring them. They wasn't going back to it. They were just spending half an hour looking on Google Images. So what I started doing was putting a more interactive mood board together with them on Canva, and I was showing them how they could make it engaging. And this is what my mood boards look like now. This is a Year 9 student's work that they put together, I think about a year ago now. Actually, it was a little while ago, but I always go back to this as an example. So now they're actually starting to thematically group their ideas. They're starting to annotate on them very clearly, very easily, and then they can start to even put in videos. So this one here is a TikTok. And I'm just going to stop that, but I hope you heard that. But it's completely multimedia. It's up to them how and what they do and how they pose that information on there. So when I said I use it as a skill builder, I'm going to go through with you exactly how I do it with my students. I get them to create and make their own mood board so they know how to do this independently. So I'm not having to constantly show and tell them how to do this. We're building up those skills. So I get them to go out, start their own PowerPoint, and then I get them used to finding images, pasting them in. So we go to uploads. I've done a lot of them already. So I'm going to chuck some images in here. So we've got some from the previous one. And then I teach them about the background remover. For anyone who doesn't know it, the reason we're able to get them to be grouped so nicely is we can just remove the background, which is up here, BG remover. And I teach them how to do this because it just gives you so much more room on the page and gives you that option to then stack and layer. So any graphics teachers or photography teachers, this is already an introduction to how they're layering their images and pictures. So it works an absolute treat. And then I can start talking about how we might move that round on the page and how we can split them up, how we can start to group them into certain types and styles, how we might then put shapes in there, because this helps them design a page. We teach at my school 3D design, and this is a fantastic way of getting them to actually start to lay pages out and present their ideas well. And we look at how we can do shapes, and we do layers again, and we start thinking about the position of those shapes, and how that is going to then give us a clearer design. So I do this as a live demo right in front of my students, and I start to get them working on it as they go along, and then we can build those skills as we go. Now, if you're looking for an easy way to bring AI into your classroom, then this is it. I then get them now to create an entirely new mood board, and this is the only engine that I trust using with my students. Is we go over to Elements, and there is an AI image generator built directly into Canva. Now, for anyone who wasn't aware of this, then it is a slightly safer version than maybe some other generators that you've heard of, because it's got Canva's shield around it. So this is one that I would be willing to use with students. I wouldn't use this any other generator in the classroom, but this one I am happy to. And I will now get them to actually describe and see some of their own products, but in different materials, in different styles maybe. So for instance, we can ask them to give us a tape dispenser in a let's go with a Art Deco style. And I'm starting to bring in those different styles, and we can bring up that conversation of, well, is that true to the style, to the designer? Is it not? Has the AI picked up on it? So it's bringing in all these different sort of skills, and then I can then pick out different functions. So I get them to go, right, I really like that, and it's got that shape. What is it that makes it Art Deco? How is it displaying that? And do you know what? We'd start talking about materials. I hadn't considered using metal like that. Or actually, they might go and flip reverse and say, I didn't want that in metal. And we can go back and start talking about our prompt design, how we might then change that. And I do this as early as I can in Key Stage 3, starting from around year 7 and 8 is when I want to start these conversations, because we're building it as a school into our curriculum, into our computer science lessons. And this is a way for me to start just bringing some of that into my DT lessons and really get my students start thinking about their design, what it is they do and how. Now, a big part of this as well, which hopefully a lot of us are aware of, is then also the sustainability of how much of a resource it takes from us as a human race and our planet of using AI. So we need to be thinking about, are we or should we be creating image after image all the time, and how much that actually is going to cost us and our planet in the future. So it brings in that conversation of when and how and why we use AI in design. Now, I at the moment think it's a good thing, and I think it's going to help a whole lot of younger generations be more creative earlier. So that's why I still put it in at the moment. But that might change, because we're learning all about AI at the minute, and how we put that in. But we've got a little bit more about AI later on, but it's not all, don't worry, we're not all going to be talking about AI. Now, when they're done with their mood boards, the next feature I like to use, and I'm just going to move this along here, is mood boards. Now, this is a PowerPoint, and people ask me and they say to me, well, what's the difference? Why don't I already know PowerPoint. Why should I learn Canva? And it's that multimodal aspect to it that I was talking about earlier. This is a live working and movable, expandable whiteboard. This is, for anyone who uses Google, this is Jamboard right in my PowerPoint. I can see this, edit it, and I can change this live in front of my students as a demo, like I am doing for you now. That they can then have their designs up, and this is how I get them to share them. This is my show call for any teachers out there who are TLAT schools. Then this is your show call right here, because you may, gone a bit too far there. You may notice that I've got this set up in tables. My students know where they're sat on what bench and where they need to then put their work, and I will demonstrate and show them that. So again, you may notice that that is the example mood board that we made earlier on, or the students one we saw earlier on, they can then pose that and they can see each other's work, and we can start to pick up on some strengths, some weaknesses, some improvements, and we can really start to give some live feedback right in front of all the students. And for me, it's dead easy to start looking at this, moving up and down, moving around, seeing different work, and I can see what they're up to straight away, all within Canva. I haven't had to flick over to a Senso or an Impero or any kind of monitoring software. I've got that right in front of me, and I haven't left my PowerPoint. I've been able to do that all in the same thing. So if you're sort of humming and ahhing about why you might want to use Canva, then it's just that interconnectivity of it all. It's live, interactive, and right there in front of you the whole entire time. Then we get into presenting final ideas. So all of that is to then build and make things. That's to then get into that creativity, and then they build and they go away and they make models, and we work in real life human physical space. We end up making things, and this is all great to do it digitally, but then what do you do with it? Do you print it off, this amazing tool that's then live and interactive, and then we have to then print it, put it on a 2D piece of paper, and then forget about it? Then if you're going to do that, then yeah, maybe PowerPoint does work. Or can we flip it and bring some of that into the digital space as well, and then start presenting our final ideas on Canva? And that's what we can do with templates. I can build and design and make my templates, and I can put them into the PowerPoint, and I can send that out to my students. So for anyone who's not aware, this here is a live, again, editable space that I can give over to my students. So they can put their images in. Anyone who hasn't seen this before, this here is a frame, and this is how why it's a template. It's because you can drag and drop images directly into these slots, and they're going to take up those spaces. So for my year 9s, this is a fantastic way of being able to build up their skills of how and where they put information to lay pages out, so you can start making digital portfolios. Anyone who's running a GCSE, I'll show you a little template that you can potentially use, and you can start to put these together yourself, and it is so dead easy. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to my uploads. I'm just going to chuck some of these images back in here. So at the moment, otherwise it's sort of don't quite know where to put it. It's off the page, and you're giving that to students. I don't want them to have to delete that and move the picture in. I can just drag that straight into the frame, and then I can drop that in. If I don't want it in there, I can then delete it, take it out. That position has still been kept for me. And then all of this text, again, is completely editable. And then what that means is my students know exactly how to lay their page out. And then we can go into some different skills. We can start looking at how and why they might put this glow effect on there, and how they can bring that final image. And we can still talk about hierarchies and where we're going to want to draw the eye. And you can add that all in as you go. But as those skills develop from 7 to 9, if you're consistently using Canva throughout DT and throughout your department, these kids are going to go from each rotation round, and they're going to present their ideas so clearly and so succinctly that it's going to look beautiful. And you can keep this as a live working document. It can go back, it can be editable. So again, we can change that prototype, we can take a better picture, and then we can go back and add in a separate different one. So it all completely works. It's live, editable, and multimodal. So if you're again asking why I might switch for a portfolio, I know a lot of us use Google Slides, and we keep that online. That's another great way of doing it. But you can still do that with Canva. So I'm going to give you an example here of a template I've put together. This is a separate design that I made, and this will work for potentially your GCSE students moving forwards, or A levels who are putting portfolios together. We've got a theme slide here, so we can start looking at potential themes, and we can start looking at mind mapping. Again, a suggestion of how they lay it out. They can do it their way, but we've got all these different slides that we can then hand out to them. Direct from this slide here, I can go share, and then I can assign this directly to my students. And I've got a couple of options. It doesn't matter what kind of school you are. If you're a Google school, Microsoft, Canva can link it up. And if you don't have that, then you can do that direct within Canva as well. So I can even give them all their own design. So it's a new design for each of them. So there's not a live copy. They're all going to start competing with ideas over. I can then set that, create a group, or I can go with the groups I've already got. So I've just given you an example. This is my own personal one, so there's not actually any student data, but I can click on that class there, say my 7X class. I can assign them some instructions, and then I can ping that directly out to them. And then that's going to be there ready for them when they open it up as an assignment. And I can go back and I can get them to hand it back to me as well. And then I can check on their progress as they go when we start developing it. So that's how you can start to assign templates, and you can start to use those as you go through. I think I'm okay. I think I'm doing all right for time at the moment, which is good. Now we're going to look at resource websites. This is another kicker of why should I start using Canva? Because yes, it's got your PowerPoint. Yes, it's got Excel. Yes, it's got in whiteboards. Yes, it's got all of that stuff. This is something Microsoft doesn't have, and it is dead easy to make websites. If you can make a PowerPoint in Canva, you can make a website. And this is one that I made for my year 7s, and it is a resource that I genuinely use. So I'm just going to open this up. I give this to our year 7s, and it is their homework. This is their homework. They know where to go. This is a website, and it lays out for them who their client is. This is an overarching theme that goes through our whole project, who they're designing for. We start talking about their mood boards and how they can go back and double check them. So they're looking for that inspiration. And then we've got the whiteboard again. This is where they're going to be having their ideas. We're going to come back to this whiteboard because this is live at the moment, a live view of it, but they can't edit this. So they're not going to go on and they're going to be changing people's answers. They're actually can see it, and it's just a live view into it. And as I go down, I've then got their first homework, and their first homework is to watch this video and then complete this quiz. That just takes them to a Microsoft form. I've then got some videos for them to watch. They're then going to make a Tinkercad model, and then they're going to send me a screenshot of that, and I can check that next lesson. Or because those of us who use Tinkercad, you can go directly in and see the model online within the class. So I can again see I've got multiple ways of checking that homework, whether it's being done. And then we've got some isometric drawing practice. And I'm able to differentiate that just by applying the certain videos. So these are all embedded, live, work really well. And because they're embedded, they're ad-free as well. And then a nice little quote at the end. And for those of you who are aware, that was literally PowerPoints, because I'm going to show you how it was designed here. Look pretty familiar to that PowerPoint I was just talking about, because if you can make a PowerPoint, you can make a website within Canva. It is literally as simple as that. Every single one of those is almost a PowerPoint slide, and then it's an interactive website that no one needs to log in on, is scalable to a phone. So any device they've got at home, it really is just inclusive. It just removes a lot of barriers. That is then your websites. Now, a new feature. This is another one that's just come in. I'm going to tread on some Canvassadors' toes, I'm sure, by talking about this. So I'm not going to show too many, because I know we've got one in the webinar series coming up, is Canva Code. Now, anyone who's heard of vibe coding before, at the moment, it's a bit of a hot topic. You, again, will have access to this within there. If you have an idea, you can build it, and then you can launch it as a website. So this here is my example of one, and it's a DT randomizer. I've set this up as a website, and everyone who's got the slides, you've got access to these links. You can jump on there. You're more than welcome to use this with your classes as well. But what I've made here is a one-arm bandit for design. I've got 3 different groups. I've got a design style, a product, and then a user group. And I've done this just purely for cover lessons. I've done it for one-off lessons and design, but it again just helps get them in the framework of being a problem solver and a designer. So they've got a style there to go away and research. They've got a product that they're going to try and make, and they've got a client who they're going to make it for. So they've got to make a postmodernism Memphis inspired bookend for 20 to 30-year-old professionals. Now they've got a real conceptual thing to go away and look at. A lot of the time, they need a bit of research time to have a look at the different styles. But because they've got all of this information right there in front of them, they've got a purpose of what to do and how to go about it. If they don't like it, they can then go and spin again. Nice and easy. And this was all done with one prompt. Now, the prompt that I used, I've put in there again for anyone who wants to make their own, because you might want to change yours and do it differently. You might want to add different categories. But this is the essential prompt I gave. And then I gave it a big list of design styles, of potential user groups, and then products that it could use as an example as well. And I'm just going to run that again to show you. So I'm just going to literally copy this prompt. Once you're in on your Canva page, up the top here in the AI Design Studio. Actually, I'm going to go home first. I'll show you, because since the glow up, not glow up, sorry, since the upgrade, the glow up was the previous one. In here, you can click into this search bar and it takes you straight into the AI Studio. It's easier than ever. And you just want to click down here, code for me. If I click on code for me there, I can chuck in my prompt, and then all I have to do is let that run. I'm just going to chuck in some of the design styles as well, because I've got them here ready to go as well. Bear with me. So I can specify exactly what I want in it, or if I don't, oh, I've hit search without it. That's all right. We're going to see what it does without my suggestions, because it is AI. So it might go and find its own user groups, might find its own thing. So it might come up with something I'm not overly happy with. However, I can then iterate it afterwards. And actually, I'll show you how to do that afterwards. So this is literally writing the code for me. At the moment, as we speak, we're up to, if you look up the top here, over 100 lines of code. You don't have to learn or know this for yourself. It will literally do it for you. And it's so amazing. So for me, this was just an idea about a randomizer that looks like a one-armed bandit. For you, you might want to start making revision quizzes for your GCSE students. You may want to make a pop-up picture quiz for materials, and they need to talk about and respond with the properties of that material. It completely up to you. If you can think of it, you literally just need to be able to expand on it and type it out, and Canva code will then be able to do that for you. Essentially, it will provide you with it. So that's running for a couple of minutes now, and that's already up to 300 odd lines. And when that's done, it will give me a preview of what it's made for me. And this is the beauty of it. I can then put that directly into a design. Now that design might be a PowerPoint, or I might want to put it into a website. So here again, it's given me the exact same, or sorry, the similar layout, but I can hit spin. I can check this out, make sure it's of a similar thing. So I might look at this and go, organic style smartwatch for seniors. That could work. Or actually, I've looked at that and I've gone, do you know what? These design styles don't fit the brief for me. They don't fit the spec. These are going to confuse my students. I want it to be a little bit more specific. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to do this again. And I'm going to ask it to redo this, but with these categories instead. So I'm going to paste in there the design styles and the products that I like. And then what it's going to do is it's going to give me then the rejig. It's going to give me version 2 of that with everything that I've just asked it to do there. So I'm just going to let that run in the background whilst that redoes that for me. But what I would like, and to give you a chance, I'm going to leave this running for about a week. I've got here, for anyone who wants to, a live whiteboard, and I'd love to see what ideas you've got that you might turn into a website. So whether that is something from Canva Code, whether that's a homework page for you, maybe it might be just an example of a digital portfolio. In the DT world, what is going to be the most useful thing for you? Sharing is caring, so we'd like to see some of your ideas, and that will be available for everyone to have a look at, add to their own, make their own, or you might want to see what other people have suggested and go off and do that as well. That is genuinely the beauty of Canva, because there is just so much you can really do with it.